Regardless of what happens tonight, we know that there are going to be wins and losses. This is, for those of us who tend to dissent from the prevailing political views in the state of Washington, for those of us who are really disappointed with leadership on issues like public safety and homelessness and mental health and substance abuse and affordability, and the list goes on and on and on. We're not going to get everything that we want on election night. That's just kind of par for the course when you dissent. But, even for people who do see the results they're looking for in some of these races, particularly where there's maybe incumbents who win and get to go back to Olympia or to Congress and have another go at it. I would ask those voters to still demand more of them, to still demand better solutions to the crises that our state is facing that have not improved. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. I was reading this article in the Center Square, and this is just a perfect illustration of what I'm talking about here. The headline, Washington State doubles down on housing first policies in 5-year plan. Now, I've said over and over, it is a lie that housing is the main driver of our homelessness crisis. Yet we've heard it from Governor Inslee. We've heard it from King County Executive Dow Constantine. It just isn't true. And I'm not interested in continuing to debate people on the merits of that, because everyone we've spoken to who's been on the streets, who's lived on the streets, who's dealt with addiction and found the other side of it, they say it is not a housing issue. And I absolutely believe them and not the politicians who are dictating these things based on what's going to bring in the most revenue. The Center Square article reads, Washington State seems to be sticking with its housing first approach for the most part in dealing with homelessness, based on the Department of Commerce's recently released strategic plan outlining statewide goals over the next 5 years for addressing the growing unsheltered population. In a letter to state lawmakers included with the new plan, State Advisory Council on Homelessness Chair Bab Anderson said the Department of Commerce's plan, quote, provides a valuable roadmap for our state's investment to prevent and end homelessness and move households into safe, stable, affordable housing. And so again, you have this plan and they're required to present it, right? But it is the housing first plan where they're looking at the next 5 years when we know housing first has been the strategy for the past 15 years. And where are we? We have more homeless people than ever before. So I feel like in any setting outside of government, if you tried something for 15 years and it was not working, you would do something else. But apparently in Washington state politics, not only do we keep doing the same stuff, but we keep electing the same people who are doing the same stuff. The article goes on to read that the 44-page plan's key goals include completing 200,000 permanent housing units within the next 4 years. In March 2023, Commerce released its final housing needs projections, showing that Washington needs to add 1.1 million homes over the next 20 years, and about half of them, or more than half of them, need to be affordable for low-income residents. Commerce has requested $1.2 billion in capital funding to support that goal, and the department plans to ask the state legislature for the housing money needed to keep up with Washington's projected population growth over the next 2 decades, and they will present that plan to lawmakers in early 2025. So as we've said with many things in the what I call the homeless industrial complex, and many other people call it that as well, that, Governor Inslee, when he came out a year and a half ago and said in his State of the State that the fundamental underlying cause of our homeless crisis was a lack of affordable housing, he did that in the same sentence. He asked taxpayers to foot the bill to the tune of $4 billion to meet those goals, again, after 10 to 15 years of focusing on housing as a path out of the homeless crisis, only to have a worse homeless crisis than ever before. So I think my message to Democratic voters in particular, because it is Democrats who've been in charge of this stuff, is look, if there's a reason, for instance, you can't vote for a Republican, or you can't bring yourself to do it, or Donald Trump or some other sort of issue, I hope you can at least bring yourself to hold the people you vote for accountable for their failed policies and for their failed approaches to things like this. Because, for instance, for progressives, I think progressives are empathetic people. I think genuinely in their heart, they are empathetic people. Sometimes policies that they support don't translate to empathy, in my opinion. It can't be a progressive value to leave people unsheltered on our sidewalks and in our parks where they freeze to death and die or are more likely to be the victim of violent crime. It can't be a progressive value to let people die in our alcoves with needles in their arm or slowly poison themselves with a drug like fentanyl until they finally take the dose that kills them. It can't be a progressive value to tax the working class to the point where they can't afford food and groceries, or where a two-income home isn't enough to move them into home ownership. Those can't be progressive values. So for some reason, that's just the way that you vote, and the people who you're putting in office are the ones you're going to continue to support. Do that, but on the back end, hold them accountable. Hold them accountable to the values that they claim to have and to the results that I think all of us want to see. So yeah, we're going to have, not everybody's going to get what they want on election night. That's just the way things are. But I think we all want the same outcomes. We want to reduce homelessness, I think. We want to reduce the number of people who can't buy a home when they're working hard. We want to, improve the substance abuse crisis and the mental health crisis. So that means we can't keep doing what we've been doing. Now, if some of these incumbents get back in, it's going to be the same people. We just need to urge them to pursue different policies. That segment was brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org.